तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयम् यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविदे नमः। कूटस्थेऽपि फलं योग्यम् राजनीव जयादिकम् तदनात्मत्वहेतुभ्याम् क्रियायाः प्रत्ययस्य च आदर्शस्तु यदा भासः मुखाकारस्य एव सः। यथैवं प्रत्ययादर्शः यदा भासस्तदा ह्यहम् इत्येवं प्रतिपत्तिः स्यात् सदस्मीति च नान्यथा। तत्त्वमित्युपदेशोऽपि द्वाराभावादनर्थकः। कूटस्थेऽपि फलं योग्यम्. Ultimately it is Kutastha, the Adhyaksha or the witness, who is the beneficiary of this Upadesha. How can Kutastha be the beneficiary? How can there be the gaining of knowledge on the part of Kutastha? Rajaniva Jadigam. Just as Raja is Kutastha, has done nothing as far as the victory is concerned, but then the victory gained by the army is attributed to the king. So also the knowledge gained by Chidabhasa is attributed to Kutastha. तदनात्मत्व हेतुभ्याम क्रियायाः प्रत्ययस्य च क्रिया अहमात्मिका वृत्तिः प्रत्यय अंतःकरणाभासः इति. So क्रियायाः प्रत्ययस्य च साभास वृत्तिवृत्तिमतो. In short, kriya means aham vrutti and pratyaya means the antahkaranam. Both of them which have the avasa, the reflection of consciousness. Tadanatmatva hetubhyam. And so both of them are anatma and both of them are the reason for the knowledge also. Knowledge can take place only when Chidabhasa is there, and Chidabhasa can be there when there is an Aham Vritti there, that can be there when Antahkaranam is there. And so, like the victory is attained by the army, so also you can say the knowledge is as though attained by this entity, Antahkaranam, Aham Vritti, Chidabhasa. And Rajaniva, and then it is attributed to Kutastha is the ultimate beneficiary of this knowledge. Because the relationship between this and the Kutastha is of the Adhyaropa Adhishthanam. So what applies to Adhyaropa ultimately gets to the Adhishthanam. Just as what applies to army ultimately gets applied to the king. Shuddhasya atmana pramatritvam nastiti. So vishishta pramatrakritam phalam kutaste upacharyate. So pramata is aham vritti, and the phalam that is gained there is attributed to kutastha. Vastutastu chit pratibimbasyeva pramatritvam is there. Iti chidatmane avikritasya pratibimabhava nibandhana phala sambandha. So chidatma is the bimba and the chidabhasa is the pratibimba in the aham vritti. And there bimba pratibimba sambandha is there. Therefore what happens is pratibimba also is assigned to bimba. Adhyaropa adhishthanam or bimba pratibimba. Adarshasthu mukha yadavasah mukhakaras eva sah. The adarsha has an avasa of the mukha. Yatha evam pratyadarsha yadavasa tadahi aham. Evam pratyadarsha ahankara yadavasa. Similar ahankara also is illumined or enlivened because of the reflection of its consciousness. That chit pratibimba, so chit pratibimba paramatma eva. Ultimately, that pratibimba is none other than Paramatma, who is the bimba. Na tatah anya ahankare ahamavasa gocharaha. So, ahankare ahamavasa gocharaha. In ahankara, the one that shines as aham, ultimately is none other than the kutastha or witness, because aham alone or kutas alone shines as aham in the ahankara also through chidabhasa. Aham brahmeti vakyatati ghatate. Therefore, even this chidabhasa states that you are Brahma adhyastamsha apohamatrena, by negating the adhyastamsha, that chidabhasa is none other than ultimately Chaitanyam. And therefore, natmana kartatvam, so other than negating the adhyastamsha, no karma is involved here. Ityevam pratipatasya sadasmiti chananyatha. This is the only way that sadasmi or aham sadasmi sad ahamasmi iti chidabhasa abhivagame sati. Meaning that only when you accept chidabhasa, then only this pratipatti in chidatma also that I am Brahma can take place through chidabhasa. Na anyasa atmaneva ahankarasya pramatutavivagame. Neither atma can be pramata in primary sense, nor ahankara can be pramata in primary sense. This chidabhasa is not accepted, then there is no way that you can that this teaching tattvamasi can become meaningful. Atah ayam margah anichadvyapi adaraneti yojana. Therefore, when the knowledge takes place through chidabhasa, is only marga that has to be accepted by anybody whether they like it or not, because neither Ahankara nor Chaitanya can be the recipient of this knowledge. And so Chidabhasa is the primary recipient through whom the Chaitanya gains the knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi. Therefore, Dvara Abhavat Anarthaka Tattvamiti Upadeshopi Dvara Abhavat Anarthaka. Tattvamasi Upadesha Dvara. Without the agency of the Chidabhasa, that Upadesha will become meaningless either to Aham Vritti, which is Jada, or to Adhyaksha or Kutastha, who is changeless. Nothing can touch that. And therefore, only when you accept this Chidabhasa, that the Upadesha is done, that Chidabhasa recognizes and or Chaitanya recognizes through Chidabhasa that Aham Brahmasmi. So, this is Etadev Vishadayati, this is further clarified in the verse 111, says here. Shrotusyad upadeshaschet arthavatvam tatha bhavet adhyakshasya na chedishtam Shrotrutvam kasya tad bhavet. Upadeshah chet shrotuhu syad upadeshaschet. There must be a shrota. When Upadesha is given, a shrota must be there. Then only the Upadesha, the instruction becomes meaningful. Arthavatvam tadava tatha bhavet. Then only the teaching that you are Brahman becomes meaningful if there is a shrota or a listener. Adhyakshasya na chedishtam. If it is Adhyaksha or Chaitanya cannot be the shrota, kasya tad bhavet, then who will be shrota? So ultimately, Atma has to be accepted as a shrota, who is told that you are Brahman, because Atma alone ultimately has to recognize that I am Brahman. And therefore, so Adhyaksha is the ultimate shrota through the agency of the Chidabhasa. Shrutu syat upadeshaschet arthavatvam tatha bhavet. Shrutu upadeshasyat tatha sati. If there is a shrota or listener to this upadesha tattvamasi, then only arthavatvam bhavet, then only the upadesha will become meaningful. If there is one who is recipient of the upadesha, shrota, listener, recipient. Tacha shrotrutam adhyakshat anyata sambhavati. Well, that shrotrutam, why should you say that on adhyaksha the atma is shrota? Why not elsewhere the shrotrutvam can be there? Adhyakshasya chate na chedishtam. If you think that adhyaksharatma cannot be shrota, shrotrutvam kasya tat bhavet, then who can be shrota? Aham vritti cannot be shrota. Aham antahkarana cannot be shrota. Atma alone can be shrota. In a way. So through the agency of Chidabhasa, ultimately Atma becomes a shrota of this Upadesha. And so when it is said that you are Brahman, it is Atma that gains the knowledge that I am Brahman. Adhyakshasya na chedishtam. If Adhyaksha is not accepted as shrota, Shrotrutvam kasya tad bhavet, tat shrotrutvam kasya bhavet, then the shrotrutvam who will be listener? Na kasyapi, there is no other listener. So ultimately you accept that the Atma is a listener of this Upadesha. He is told that you are Sat and Sat you are. यद्यपि अध्यक्षस्य न उपदेशः तथापि न वैयर्थ्यम्. So Shanka, Purva Pakshi says, यद्यपि अध्यक्षस्य न उपदेश, even the Adhyaksha is not given the Upadesha, You say Adhyaksha or the consciousness, Atma is given Upadesha, then it's meaningful. Even if Atma is not given Upadesha, then also it's not meaningless. Iti Shankate. The idea is that to explore other aspects also to arrive at the conclusion this is only proper explanation or a plausible explanation. So explore other explanations also, and that's how the questions are asked here. Yadyapi adhyakshasya na upadesha. Suppose you say that adhyaksha or witness is not the one for whom the upadesha is. And we say that if adhyaksha or atma is not the shrota of this upadesha, then upadesha is meaningless. Tathapi na vaiyartyam. Even if Atma is not the Shrota of this Upadesha, then also Upadesha is not vyartha or meaningless. Iti Shankate. So the Shanka is presented in the next verse. Adhyakshasya samipe syat buddhere veti chen matam na tatkritopakaroste काष्ठाद्यद्वन्न kalpyate. Buddhi is there in the proximity of consciousness or adhyaksha, there is buddhi. So why not the Upadesha is given to buddhi, which is there in the proximity of adhyaksha or consciousness? So adhyakshasya samipe syat buddhi eva iti chenvatam. If this is a mata, that buddhi obtains in the proximity of adhyaksha or atma. So tika says tatra. Then we ask, okay, why not buddhi is the shrota? Why not the upadesha is given to buddhi? Why do you insist that upadesha is given to atma? Why cannot the buddhi become the recipient of the upadesha? Then we ask, so adhyakshasya samipe syad buddhehe eva iti chenvatam. This is the opinion. Then we ask, tatra buddhehe shrotrutvam kim adhyaksha sannidhi satta matrapeksham. So buddhi is in the proximity of consciousness. You say that buddhi is shrota. We ask you, does the buddhi become shrota merely by being in the proximity of consciousness? Ahosvit tatkrita upkarapeksham. Or some specialty that the consciousness adds to buddhi, is that what makes buddhi the shrota? Buddhi shrotrutvam, meaning buddhi becomes shrota. Is it that because it is merely in proximity of Atma that becomes Shrota? Or because of proximity, buddhi gains some upakara, some additional thing happens to buddhi. Some special feature is added to buddhi. Is it merely buddhi that receives this upadesha, is capable of receiving? Or the buddhi in which some special feature is added? It's chidabhasa. So, buddhi without the benefit of chidabhasa is jada. Can it become the recipient of upadesha? Or buddhi, because the proximity of chidabhasa, Atma, has a reflection of Atma, therefore chidabhasa yukta buddhi, that becomes the shrota. So we ask, how can buddhi become shrota by itself? Because buddhi itself is unconscious, how can it become shrota? O ahosvit tatkrita upakarapeksham. buddhi becomes Shrota is because some special feature is added to buddhi by the consciousness. Which Chidabhasa? Iti vikalpya adyam pratyaha. Say that buddhi as it is becomes the recipient of the then buddhi is unconscious. न तत्कृत उपकारोस्ति काष्ठाद यद्वद न कल्प्यते तत्कृत उपकारः नास्ति. If buddhi remains buddhi with no additional feature on account of the consciousness, then buddhi is inert, unconscious. And so whether buddhi is in the proximity of Atma or buddhi is in proximity with a piece of wood, see, buddhi is in the proximity of a piece of wood, nothing would be benefit to the buddhi. Similarly also, if no benefit comes to buddhi, in presence of Atma also, then what is the difference between the buddhi being in presence of Atma, the consciousness, and buddhi being in presence of a piece of wood? Some benefit should come, some special features should be added. तत्कृतः सन्निहित अध्यक्षकृतः उपकारः. Upakara means atisha, some special feature added to buddhi in presence of Atma. Nasti, if you don't accept, that is Chidabhasa. If you don't accept it, yadvat kasthad indhanade sannitad buddhu atishayo nakalpyate. Then buddhi has no benefit of Atma because it is as unconnected with Atma as buddhi would be unconnected to a piece of wood. Piece of wood is inert, Atma is conscious, but merely consciousness can do nothing to anything unless, so consciousness cannot illumine the world also. Unless consciousness first illumines the mind by Chidabhasa and the sense organs and then the sense objects, then only consciousness also can bless the world, illumine the world. So consciousness, even though it is limitless and whatever it is still incapable of blessing anybody, incapable of receiving upadesha or making this meaningful, unless that consciousness adds some special feature, namely Chidabhasa to buddhi, then alone buddhi can be the recipient of upadesha, and through that Atma can become the recipient of upadesha. So the two vikalpas were there. Kim adhyaksha sannidmatra apeksham. You say that buddhi becomes Shrota merely by being in the proximity of Atma. Ahosvita tatkruta upakara apeksham, or because some special upakara means a special feature is added to buddhi by Atma. Is that how it becomes Shrota? So first was dismissed by saying that buddhi gains no benefit from Atma just by proximity of Atma, just as buddhi gains no benefit by being proximity in a piece of wood. Even the wood is inert and Atma is conscious, but then Atma itself cannot influence buddhi, just as wood cannot. Therefore, second one, tatkruta upakara apeksham, or Atma adds some special feature to buddhi, favors the buddhi upakara. Then buddhi becomes capable, of receiving, it becomes enlivened and becomes capable of receiving this upadesha. So the next verse is Abhase parinamasched buddho chet tatkritah kaschit nanvevam parinamita Abhase pichako doshah siddhi shrutyadhyanugrahe. buddho chet tat kritah kaschit nanu evam parinamita. There is a nanu there. Nanu evam parinamita. So that evam is taken first in the tika. Evam sati. Evam sati meaning avasa anabhyugame sati. If you do not accept the chidavasa, meaning that the special favor that Chaitanya does to buddhi by being reflected, if you don't accept that, so you say that Chaitanya can enliven the buddhi. We say that Chaitanya can enliven the buddhi by being reflected. Says no, you don't need the chidavasa. Atma is Chaitanya, is consciousness. So why not by its presence, without chidabhasa, it influences buddhi, makes it enlivened. Why not? Evam sati. Avasa anabhivagame, that Atma can enliven the buddhi without the agency of chidabhasa. Then how can that do? Unless Atma undergoes some change. See, Atma right now is shining as consciousness. Now buddhi is there, then the buddhi comes into picture, and then buddhi becomes enlivened now in presence of Atma. That cannot happen unless some change happens in Atma. See, when buddhi was not there, Atma was shining in its own glory of consciousness. Now buddhi has come, and then buddhi became enlivened in presence of Atma. So unless some change happens in Atma, how can buddhi become enlivened? In that case, if without the chidavasa, buddhi can become enlivened, then some change must take place in Atma itself. Avasa anubhigame adhyakshasya parinamita. Then adhyaksha, consciousness should undergo some change for buddhi to become enlivened. Consciousness is there, now buddhi comes. Now buddhi becomes enlivened. So something should happen to consciousness, then buddhi must become enlivened because some change must happen there. We say that buddhi becomes enlivened through chidavasa. It's the chidavasa you don't accept. Then buddhi without chidavasa accomplishes the job enlivening the Atma without chidavasa accomplishes the job enlivening buddhi. Then something must happen to Atma. Earlier buddhi was not enlivened, now buddhi is enlivened. Some change must happen to Atma. Parinamita nanu nischitam. This nanu is not objection, nischitam. So nanu evam nanu parinamita. If buddhi becomes enlivened just by consciousness itself, without the chidavasa, then consciousness must undergo some change for this change to happen in buddhi. Buddhi by itself is inert, unconscious. Now it becomes enlivened. So change happens in buddhi. So some corresponding change should happen in Atma, then only buddhi can become enlivened. That means Atma becomes changing, parinaming. Parinamita nanu nischitam prasajjeta iti. If buddhi becomes enlivened without the agency of chidavasa, then you would accept that something has happened to Atma, some change for buddhi, which was not enlivened before, becomes enlivened now. The change happens in buddhi, it cannot be unless some change happens in Atma. And so you will then accept Atma as changing, which nobody accepts. So Atma remains changeless and still does its job of enlivening buddhi and running the whole universe and whatever it does. The question of Tattvamasi comes much later. First of all, the whole Vyavahara has to explain that there is this Vyavahara going on between you and I, for example. Oh, the whole universe is functioning. All this Vyavahara has to be explained. Merely presence of Ishvara is in heaven. That is what is called transcendental Ishvara. The transcendental reality cannot explain the Vyavahara, which is the Vyavaharika Satta or Mithya. So some agency must be there. That Father in heaven also must do some upakara. Everybody has to explain it in some way. He is in Father, he is in heaven, this, that, and whatnot, and still his son has to come. Something has to happen to bless the world. And so, Bhagavan by himself has his transcendental, which is what everybody accepts. The other, whether it's Christianity or Islam, both of them accept Ishvara as transcendent, except that they accept Nirakara, but Saguna, So he is Father and he is this, that, and so all those virtues are accepted. So Saguna and Nirakara. They keep on attacking Hinduism for worshipping Akaras. But you are also Saguna. Hinduism goes all the way up to Nirguna also. But anyway, not realizing that worshipping Akara is a step, is not the ultimate thing. Worshipping Akara is meant to ultimately transcend the need for worshipping Akara. It's a stepping stone. But they take that as the ultimate thing and then keep on bashing, Poor Hindus don't know what is it, what Hinduism is, what they are saying. And so we feel very apologetic about our religion, Hinduism is like this, worshipping idols and worshipping this and that, So they have, through their superior intellect and because of their satta or power, thrust through the throats of the Hindus, that you people are useless, thoughtless, unthinking people, and worshipping all these idols, etc. And that's what poor Hindus believe. Anyway, but see, this is the only way you can explain that a Father in heaven can also bless the world through the agency of his Samchidabhasa. That must come to this satta. The Son must come to the satta of his devotees whom he has to bless. Anyway, ato rupam pratirupo babhuva ekada bahuda chaiva drishyate jalachandravat iti. Ityadi Shruti anugrahita abhats paksho. The Shruti also accept abhats paksha. Rupam pratirupo babhuva. Just as fire is one and the caster or the fuel is of different shapes, how fire assumes the shapes of all the fuel, so also Atma assumes the shape of all these beings. Ekada bahuda chaiva drishyate jalachandravat. Jalachandra ekada by itself, bahuda by being reflections. So therefore this paksha of the reflection is accepted by Shruti also. Pratirupa means what? Again, it's similar to reflection. Rupam pratirupa. Whatever this rupa, he becomes of that rupa. The fire assumes the form of the combustible material, like a piece of iron. So also Atma has to assume the rupa of this upadhi, to bless the upadhi, to make the iron hot. Fire cannot remain just fire. It must enter the iron, take the form of iron. Then only it can make the iron hot. Similarly also, Chidabhasa is required. Abhasa evacha ko doshaha. Then what is the problem in accepting abhasa? Sati Shrutyadi anugrahe. Shruti also accepts it. And without abhasa you can't explain. Unless you accept Chaitanya as Parinami. So what's your problem? So that verse actually is explained. Yadva. Astu parina. So now, evam parinamita. Can we say yadvastu parinamita adhyakshasya ched? All right, then let there be parinamita in adhyaksha. The avase vichako dosha, then why do, if you are willing to accept parinamita, change in adhyaksha, why can't you accept chidavasa? Shruti anugrah, shruti shruti smruti also accept. Avase bija pramana siddhya abhiyogamyana tatra ko dosha bhavishati. If you are willing to go to the extent of accepting parinamita, change in consciousness, to avoid chidavasa, what's the problem in accepting chidavasa? Which also has support of the Shruti and Smruti. Avasa pakshe chidatmana parinama prasanga abhavam vaktum. If you accept chidavasa, then you don't have to accept the parinama, change in the consciousness. Consciousness without undergoing change, just as the face, without undergoing change, gets reflected in the mirror and makes the mirror of the shape of the face. So then face doesn't have to change. So also consciousness without undergoing change creates the avasa, the ahankara becomes the mirror, and then consciousness gets reflected. To say that again, parinama prasanga abhavam vaktum, that when you accept that is the reflection or chidavasa, then you don't need to accept the parinama change in the consciousness. Shankam utthavayati. Then to clarify that, a doubt is raised here. Avase parinamasche narajvadinibhatvavata sarpadescha tatho vocham adarashecha mukhatvavata. Avase parinamasche. So why not? Why not that when Atma gets reflected, then there is some change in Atma? So doesn't some change happen in Atma when Atma gets reflected in the Aham Vritti? Naivam, no. Avasasya vrushatvopatteheti. Says no. If that Chidabhasa was real, then what you say is right, but Chidabhasa is Musha or Mithya. If the reflection was real as the face, then some change may need to happen to the face for the real reflection. But if reflection is Mithya, then no change needs to happen in the face. Reflection can become distorted also, and all kinds of things can happen as influenced by the mirror without the face having to undergo any change. Therefore, in being reflected, the image does not need to undergo any change. The face, in being reflected in the mirror, does not need to undergo any change. So also the consciousness, in being reflected in the Aham Vritti, does not need to undergo any change. So Naivam, meaning that avasai parinamasche, this is the Purvapaksha. That when consciousness gets reflected, then there is some change, parinama in consciousness. Will it not be? Naivam, no. Avasasya mrushat bhupatte, because we already established avasa is mithya. Reflection is mithya, therefore does not require any change in the image. example is given. Na abhase parinamasche, this is Purva Paksha. Abhase, if then consciousness gets reflected, parinama, will not consciousness also have to undergo any change for being reflected? Says no. Why not? Because the reflection is mithya, is an appearance and not a reality. Had it been reality, then yes, you may expect some change in the face or in the consciousness. But it is an appearance and not a reality. Just as Rajvadi Nibhatvavata na Rajvadi na, that cannot be Rajvadi Nibhatvavata Sarpadehe. And the Sarpa is similar to Rajju. Without undergoing Rajju, undergoing any change, the snake very much appears. So it has the same kind of curvature, etc., as the Rajju. So Rajju Ajnana Kalpitasya Rajvade Rajju Nibhatvat, similarity. Just as a snake which is imagined or projected because of the ignorance of the rope, just as the rope snake that is projected because of ignorance of the rope, and that snake appears similar to rope. Nibhatva means similarity. Or other example, Anidamatmakasya rajatadehe idamatmakatvacha. Another example is the Shuktika and Rajata. So, this you see Rajata or silver, where in fact there is a piece of shell. And this is silver, this is what you say. This is silver. Let's pronoun this. Does it belong to silver? The pronoun this, does it belong to silver? It cannot, because silver is what? Just an imagination. It truly belongs only to the shell, Shuktika. So, idam rajatam, you say, in fact, rajatam is not anidam atmakasya rajatadehe. Even though you say idam rajatam, this is silver. The idamness, thisness does not belong to silver. Thisness belongs to the shell. So, anidam atmakasya rajatadehe. Rajata, etc., which is, doesn't have idam tvam. You know, idam atmakatvam. The silver doesn't have thisness. Thisness belongs to the shell. Idam atmakatvat. Then what do you say? Idam rajatam. Even though rajatam does not possess thisness, because what possesses thisness is only shell, still you say this silver. Chidatma ajnana kalpatasya buddhyadehe nushaeva chinnibhatvam. So just as the snake is projected from the ignorance of rope, or silver is projected from the ignorance of shell, so also buddhyadi, all buddhi and everything is also nothing but the product of the ignorance of Atma, of Chidatma. Chidatma ajnana kalpitasya buddhyadehe. Ultimately, buddhi and all of these have their source in ignorance only. Just as rope snake has its source in ignorance of rope, or the silver has its source in ignorance of shell, so also buddhi and everything beginning from buddhi has its source only in the ignorance of consciousness. I mean, ignorance is the primary cause of the creation of everything. So buddhi also is projected from ignorance of consciousness or self. Chakarat abhoktritva rupasyatma bhoktritva avasah. So on one hand, the buddhi appears to be real, but that is not so. It is a product of the ignorance of consciousness. And the consciousness appears to be karta bhokta. Conch appears to be bhokta, recipient of the knowledge or ignorance, etc. That also is mithya. So, abhoktatva rupasya atmana bhoktritva avasa mrusha evati suchyate. Similarly also, the bhoktritva, the experiencership of the Atma also is mrusha. But then, Atma as though become recipient of the knowledge and therefore experience of knowledge or etc. is also mrusha. Yatha evam mrushatvam tatha we already have said all these. Purvavocham. Earlier discussion had already established that the reflection of face in the mirror is mrusha or mithya, has been established. Adarshecha mukhatvavata. So, just Rajju Sarpa is mrusha, Kartrutva Bhokti Atma is mrusha, or the face in the mirror is also mrusha or appearance, mithya. It is drishtanta pranayanena ityartha. So this has been already established that in the drishtanta of the face and the reflection is mithya has been already established. Chakarat mukhasyeva atmana avikrutamapi avocham. So even when the reflection undergoes change, the face does not undergo change. So also Atma does not undergo any change at all, even when the reflection of Atma undergoes various changes. Because as changes happen in the mirror, the reflections change. Also, as change happens at Buddhi also, Chidabhas keeps on changing, but does not involve any change in the image, which is Atma. All of this has been clarified. Therefore, there is no parinamitva. In short, in the process of the Chidatma being reflected, Chidatma does not need to undergo any transformation or change. Just as the face does not undergo any change in being reflected in the mirror. Why? Because that reflection is mithya. If reflection was real, then there would have been different. It's a mithya. Ahankruteva atmatvadi manyamanasya. Again the fellow who does not accept Chidavasa, he says Ahankar itself is Atma. We also say that, but Ahankara with Chidavasa is Jivatma. His Ahankara itself is Atma. Ahankrutehe Atmatvam. Ahankara itself is Atma. Iti manyamanasya chinnivatvam akshipati. Chinnivat, similar to chit, is now being questioned here. How can the ahankara become enlivened without the reflection? So, ahankara chinnibhatvam akshipati. Ahankara, chinnibha means similar to chit. Ahankara also becomes similar to consciousness, enlivened. How can it be? If that itself is Atma and therefore there is no reflection, how does ahankara become like Atma? Consciousness or conscious, enlivened. Chinnibhatva means similar to chit. Ahankrute atmatvam. The ahankara is Atma. Iti manyamanasya. This is the paksha or position of this person. Tasya chinnibhatvam. How can there be similar to chit? Ahankara, how does it become similar to chit? That is akshipati, na atma iti. नात्मा वा सत्व सिद्धिश्चे आत्मनो ग्रहणात् पृथक् मुखादेश्च पृथक् सिद्धिः Yatvanyonnya samshaya. Atma avasatva siddhischet atmana grahanat prasak atma avasatva siddhi nachet. See, this is the Purvapaksha. Atmana grahanat prasak. All that is necessary is for Atma to shine. Avasatva siddhi, there is no need for the avasa. All that is required is Atma to shine. There is no need for the reflection of the Atma. So Tika says, Atmana kevalasya grahanat, merely avasana, merely Atma is shining. Putsageva Atma avasa tattva siddhischet na bhavet. And there is no other, this Atma avasa, Chidavasa, separate from Atma, is not there. So again, same questioning, the Chidavasa. Atmana kevalasya grahanat avasanat prasak. Other than the shining of the Atma, Atma avasattvasya siddhischet na bhavet. That Atma avasa, that Chidavasa is siddhi, there is no Chidavasa other than Atma. All that these Atma shines, Chidavasa is not there. Avasa avasaneva Atmavasa bhavet. That the Atma is shining, by that shining itself the Atma is there, and then you don't require the Chidavasa other than the Atma Bhasa. Tadaya tu asmin mate anyonya samshayati yojana. The Atma avasatva siddhischet Atmana grahanat prasak Atma avasatva siddhi nachet. First line. Atmana grahanat prasak. Other than the shining of the Atma, the Atma avasatva siddhi, there is no Atma avasa other than the shining of Atma. There is no shining of Chidavasa, etc. Then Mukhadescha pratak siddhi yatu anyonya samshraya. Then the buddhi shines because of shining of Atma, and Atma shines because of shining of buddhi. How do you know Atma shines? Because buddhi shines. How does the buddhi shine? Because Atma shines. So, anyonya samshrayati yojana. And drishantasya vishamaha mukhadesya prasak siddhi darpanadigata avasa vyatirekena grivastatvena mukhasya sada siddhi asti iti na tatra anyonya sapekshata ityartha. You give the example of the mukhabhasa. But mukhabhasa anyonya sapekshata is not that mukhabhasa is there because mukha is there, and how do you know face is there? Because mukhabhasa is there. How is mukhabhasa there? Because mukha is there. So how do you establish the existence of mukha? Because of mukhabhasa, because of the reflection. How is the reflection established? Because of the face. So is there face? Yes, it is there because there is reflection. Is there reflection? Yes, because it is face. There is face. You follow? How do you say face is? Because the reflection is there. So face to be there requires reflection, and reflection to be there requires face. This is called anyonya ashraya. He says, no, in this drishtanta that is not so, because face exists on its own, grivasta. Without the reflection also, the existence of face is there as obtaining in my neck. So face does not require reflection to establish its existence because face exists on its own on the neck. So consciousness does not require the reflection for its existence. Consciousness exists on its own. So how do you know consciousness is? Because Chidabhasa is there. How is Chidabhasa there? Because consciousness is there. How is the reflection of face there? Because face is there. How is face there? Because reflection is there. How do you know there is face? No, I see because I see it in the mirror, so my face is there. So do you need the reflection to establish the existence of face? Does face not exist without reflection? It does on the neck. So face does not require reflection to establish the existence. Therefore, there is no anyonya ashraya. So also consciousness does not require Chidabhasa to establish existence. Either you require Chidabhasa to establish the existence of Chit, and you say Chit is there because of Chidabhasa. It's not so. Chidabhasa exists because of Chit, but Chit exists on its own. Mukhabhasa exists because of Mukham, but Mukho exists on its own. So the Anyonya Ashraya is not there. Or again, Spashtayati. Anyonya Ashrayatvam Spashtayati. Adhyakshasya prasak siddhau avasasya tadiyata avasasya tadiyatve yadyakshavyatiriktata. See, what should have been said earlier is said in this verse, by the way. That earlier, Anyonya Samshraya. Earlier verse, Anyonya Samshraya means that there is mutual dependence. How is mutual dependence? That Purvapakshi explains in this verse. Adhyakshasya prasak siddhau avasasya tadiyata. That only when Adhyaksha is there, then Abhasa can be there. Abhasasya tadiyatve. If Abhasa is there, then Adhyaksha is established. That's how. That is not so in case of the face and reflection, because the face exists independently, so also Adhyaksha exists independently. Doesn't require Abhasa to establish its being there. तथा च अहमिति प्रतीयमानः अहंकृत्यात्मकः एव चेतनः आत्मा यदि युक्तमिदभिप्राय तथा अहमिति प्रतीयमानः अहंकृत्यात्मकः एव चेतनात्मा. So Chetanatma, the Atma which is consciousness, which ahamiti pratiyamana, which appears as aham. In the ahamkara, aham vritti, the one that appears as aham is Chetanatma. The one that appears as a reflection in the mirror is the face. Not that face requires the reflection to be there. The one that appears as a reflection is face. So also not that the Chidatma requires Chidabhasa, one that appears as Chidabhasa is Chidatma. Iti yuktam. So we do not require Chidabhasa to establish the existence of Chit. That because of which Chidabhasa is there is Chit. Just as that because of which the reflection is the face. So this is how different kinds of objections can be there, and they are taken up one by one to explore all the nitty-gritties of the Chidabhasa and to give us clarity, more and more clarity about Chidabhasa, the need for Chidabhasa, and clarity about Chidabhasa. Okay, we'll continue. Idam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.